Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you to describe the emerging field of financing systemic transformation. I'm Steve Waddell and lead steward for FEST. I want to begin by pulling together some facts that I think you'll all be familiar with. First and foremost is the polycrisis facing the world today. The environmental and social challenges are of such a scale that they literally threaten us with ecological and civilizational collapse. This is producing increasingly frantic calls for deep change. Simple reform will not produce the needed results. We need to reorient our civilization from extractive and repressive traditions, and this requires fundamentally new mental models and ways of doing. Associated with this are efforts like the SDGs that are facing huge funding shortfalls. Or another way to look at it, the financial system is simply not designed to fund the transformations. The core logic of the current dominant financial system is part of the maelstrom that's pushing us off the cliff. In response, we're seeing numerous financial innovations. However, as the COP27 president said, what is needed is a transformation of the financial system and its structures and processes. A few financial innovations are not going to get us to where we've got to go. In 2008, I led something called the Global Finance Initiative, looking at how to integrate the sustainability imperative into the core logic of finance. People we interviewed could only reference three economic alternatives, the old limiting 19th century ones of capitalism, communism, and socialism. I'm co-author of a research report about to come out in Nature that took a look at how people think about economic options today. There's an incredible flourishing of new approaches, including circular, regenerative, donut, and buen vivir economics. There is a similar uprising happening in finance. But to see this requires looking with a new set of eyes. What are the patterns that are emerging when we look at financial innovations as a whole rather than simply as idiosyncratic parts? We can see the outlines of a fundamentally different approach to finance. It's fundamentally different from what we might call progressive capital, like impact investing, that by and large is focused on adjustments to the system. Most progressive capital change is simply too modest to address our scale of polycrisis. This contrasts with what we are seeing as systemic transformation capital. A set of financial innovations is focused on literally a different type of operating logic. This table presents a series of distinctive qualities. For example, rather than looking at triple bottom line returns, they're focused on transformation. Rather than assuming the investors should have the final say, they're developing multi-stakeholder collaborative decision-making processes. These are people who realize we need to change the basic power dynamics associated with money and envision a better world for it. And rather than focusing on silver bullets and technophysics, they're also embracing social innovations as both necessary and helpful for value creation. This is a simplistic way to think about financing transformation as an exchange between someone who has money and someone with a transformation project. People are designing financial systems that look quite familiar, but they are based on a different core logic as described in the earlier table. They also emphasize some new roles. For example, deal aggregators to put together individual modest size proposals to create a scale and comprehensiveness that is up to the transformational challenge. 1,000 Landscapes for 1 billion people is creating a landscape scale financing approach with the new logic. As well, some roles are different. Assessors, for example, are assessing equitability of distribution of benefits, not just ensuring financial investors' returns. All this requires huge capacity development to create and connect innovations. This is a financial ecosystem for systemic transformation. You're probably familiar with some of the components being linked. To mention a few, the Investment Integration Project is pioneering with private investors systemic impact evaluation strategies. Converge is an innovative platform for accelerating blending of capital. Carbon credits are an important innovation, so are blue bonds and nature bonds that TNC and others are pioneering. And there are new approaches to calculating future value to bring in both positive and negative externalities. I note that some of these innovations, such as carbon credits, are under threat of simply being absorbed or co-opted into the traditional financial system. But innovations are being put together and being developed into new types of financial systems for systemic transformation. One that you're probably familiar with is the climate investment funds. I participated in a recent review, and it was obvious that a simple IGO funding mechanism started in 2007 has grown into a system with the roles described earlier. Co-impact, coming from high net worth and foundation space, is another example of an FST ecosystem. But there are others, such as Impactia in Latin America, Transcap growing out of a science government European initiative, industry in India growing up around artisans, Seeds, which is grounded in Web3 technology, and the social stock exchange developed in Edinburgh. A recent review of the state of the FST field confirmed numerous strengths. Perhaps it's easiest to summarize these as being full of energy, innovation, and determination. But it's also facing very significant challenges. It's still a tiny field in comparison with traditional finance and easily missed as people look for big silver bullets to address the polycrisis. A lot of work is needed to bring to the head its potential. Greatly accelerating development of the field of financing systemic transformation requires very significant collective effort. This is the journey being developed by thought leaders, researchers, entrepreneurs, innovators, and financiers coming together as FEST. Let's walk on that journey together.